My name is Saphira Liss and I just turned 16. On my birthday, the man I had called Dad for the past 12 years threw a $10 bill at me and said, "Get out. I'm done paying for another man's trash." He thought those words would break me. He thought the crumpled $10 bill in the slammed door would be the end of me. But he didn't know that it was only the beginning. I picked up the bill, looked him straight in the eyes, smiled, and handed him the sealed envelope I had been keeping for 2 years. I knew exactly what was inside. He tore it open and his face went white. Then he looked out the window and froze. Outside, through the thick Spokane snow, a black Range Rover was parked at the curb. The driver's door opened and a tall man in a dark coat stepped out. He started walking toward our house. My heart raced and my so-called dad looked like he had seen a ghost. Before I tell you who that man was and why it made him so scared, I need to take you back to the beginning, to the day everything started. But before I continue, don't forget to subscribe and join the awesome community. Drop a comment below to tell me where you're watching from and what you think of the story. I still remember every little detail of the day the snow buried Interstate 90, the year I turned 4. The phone rang while I was coloring at the kitchen table. Callista answered, then dropped the receiver. She didn't cry at first. She just stared at the wall. Then Tavian walked in from the garage. He looked at her face and knew right away that my parents were gone. The funeral was small. I wore a navy coat that was 2 sizes too big, and I held Tavian's hand the entire time because everyone told me he was family now. He and Callista stood at the front with me between them. People said I was lucky to have them. I thought maybe I really was. They moved me into their house on South Hill that same week. For the first few years, everything seemed normal. We had Christmas cards with all 4 of us smiling, Tavian teaching me to ride my bike in the driveway and Callista braiding my hair before school pictures. I called them Mom and Dad because that's what they told me to do. Nobody ever corrected me. I felt like I had a family again. Then Kaylin came along when I was 6. Suddenly everything changed. There were new toys just for him, new clothes just for him, and a new room that smelled nice just for him. My old stuffed bear disappeared. My bedroom became the baby's nursery. I was moved to a smaller room at the back of the house that smelled like mothballs. By the time I was 8, the differences between Kaylin and me were impossible to miss. Kaylin got the shiny red bicycle for Christmas, but I got a sweater 2 sizes too big from the clearance rack. When I asked Tavian why, he just said, "You're older. You don't need as much." Callista gave that tight smile and quickly changed the subject. My 9th birthday came and went without anyone saying a single word. No cake, no candles, no happy birthday song. I sat on my bed until midnight waiting for someone to remember. Nobody did. I cried so hard that I threw up in the bathroom and had to clean it up myself because I didn't want to get in trouble. The real wake-up call came the winter I turned 10. I went downstairs for water and heard voices in the kitchen. The light was off, but I could see a glow from under the door. I pressed my ear against it, trying to hear. Tavian's voice was low, almost a growl. "The trust from my brother is sitting at $1 million, plus the life insurance payout brings it to $1,600,000. As long as we keep her until she's 18, we control every penny. The state pays us extra because we're listed as her parents. Nobody's checking." Callista laughed softly. "When she's 18, we're done. She'll get whatever's left, if anything. Until then, we just keep pretending to be the perfect family." I froze. My glass slipped from my hand and shattered on the hardwood floor. The kitchen light flicked on. Tavian's face appeared in the doorway. His eyes were narrow and sharp. "Go back to bed, Saphira," he said. That was the first time he used my name like it was a threat. From that night on, I understood exactly what I was to them. Money. Every forced smile for the neighbors, every family photo, every good girl act was just part of the act. I stopped asking for things. I stopped expecting birthdays. I started watching, listening, and waiting for the day I could prove who they really were. Those words from the kitchen haunted me for the next 4 years. I couldn't sleep through the night. Every little creak in the hallway made me sit up, terrified they were coming to check if I was still useful. I started searching for anything that might explain why my own family treated me like an investment. I looked through every drawer, every box in the attic, and every forgotten corner of the garage. I found nothing. Until the week I turned 14. I was cleaning out the spare closet like Callista always made me do before the holidays, when my hand brushed against something cold at the very back. It was a small gray lockbox, the kind with a cheap padlock. A strip of masking tape across the lid had my mom's handwriting in faded blue ink. "Open only when you're 14. I love you forever, Mom." I carried it to my room, my heart hammering so loud I was sure someone would hear it. I used a paperclip and a YouTube video to pick the lock in under 2 minutes. Inside was a single envelope, thick cream paper sealed with red wax. I broke the seal and read the letter. It was 3 pages, dated 2 months before the crash. My sweetest Saphira, it began. If you're reading this, I'm no longer there to protect you. Before I married your dad, I was in a short relationship with a man named Theron Liss. We were young. It ended when he got engaged to someone else. I thought that chapter was over. But 3 months later, I discovered I was pregnant with you. I never told Theron. I married your dad because I loved him and wanted you to have a family. But I've seen how Tavian looks at money. I've seen the way he talks about the trust and insurance payout. I'm afraid after I'm gone he'll try to control everything that's meant for you. The letter continued. The trust is $1,200,000 from your grandparents, plus $400,000 in life insurance. It's in your name only. Tavian is only the trustee until you're 18. I've hired an attorney, Zinnia Vale, in downtown Spokane to watch over it. Her card is taped inside this lid. There's also a strand of my hair and a copy of your original birth certificate, showing your father as unknown. If you ever need proof of who your real father is, use it. You are not a burden. You are my miracle. All my love, Mom. I read it 4 times before the words stopped swimming. Theron Liss. The name meant nothing and everything at the same time. I found Zinnia Vale's business card exactly where Mom said it would be. I emailed her from the library computer the next day using a fake name at first. She responded in 20 minutes. If you're Jennifer's daughter, she said, call me immediately. Zinnia's voice was calm, kind, but serious. She already knew about the trust discrepancies. She mailed me a discreet DNA kit with no return address. I waited until Tavian left his hairbrush on the bathroom counter after his shower, snatched 3 strands with roots still attached, and mailed the kit from a Dropbox across town. 17 days later, the results arrived at a P.O. box Zinnia set up for me. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Theron Liss was my father. I sat on the floor of the public library bathroom and cried so hard I almost threw up. Then I wiped my face, walked out, and went to the only person I trusted with something this big. Sorrel. She has been my best friend since 6th grade. She was the only one who never bought the perfect family act. I showed her the letter, the DNA report, everything. She read in silence, then pulled me into the tightest hug I had ever felt. We didn't sleep that night. We just sat on her bedroom floor whispering plans, promises, and every swear word we knew about Tavian and Callista. For the first time in 10 years I wasn't alone. The next 2 years became a countdown only I could see. Theron emailed me the same night Zinnia forwarded him my test results. His first message was only 4 words. I should have known. We started slowly, 1 message a week, then every few days. He never pushed. He never asked for photos or phone calls until I was ready. When I finally sent him a picture of me holding the lockbox, he replied with a single voice note. His voice cracked on my name. He wanted to fly to Spokane the next day. I begged him to wait. In Washington, 16 is the magic number. At 16, I could petition the court myself to change guardians if I proved the current ones were harming my interests. Zinnia had already drafted everything. We just needed the perfect moment to serve it. So we planned quietly and carefully. I kept living the lie at home, smiled at the right times, helped with Kaylin's homework, said, yes, Dad, and counted 722 days. The morning I turned 16 arrived gray and silent. No balloons on the mailbox. No pancakes with candles. Kaylin was already at school. Callista was at her yoga class. Tavian sat at the kitchen island in his bank suit, scrolling his phone. I walked into the house wearing the same jeans and hoodie I had slept in. My hair was messy, my shoes scuffed, and I felt a little tired, but I was ready. He didn't even look up at first. I could hear the clock ticking in the hallway and the faint hum of the refrigerator. Then slowly he reached into his wallet, pulled out a crisp $10 bill and flicked it across the shiny granite counter. The bill slid and landed at my feet with a soft thud. Get out, he said. His voice was flat, like he didn't even care about the words he was saying. I'm done paying for another man's trash. His words hurt, but I had waited for this moment for 2 whole years. I bent down, picked up the $10 bill, folded it neatly and slipped it into my pocket. I smiled for the first real time in that house in a decade. I felt like I was finally taking back a little piece of myself. I reached into my backpack and pulled out a thick manila envelope. I had told him I had it and now I was finally showing it to him. He snorted, trying to look unimpressed. "Know what exactly?" he asked, his voice full of doubt. I put the envelope in front of him carefully. Inside were papers that would change everything. There was a temporary order signed by a Spokane County judge the day before. It was effective immediately. There was also a certified DNA report and a petition showing 12 years of money and resources being taken wrongly right from under me. His fingers shook as he opened it. Page after page showed his own forged signatures. Every signature, every number, every date proved he had lied and stolen. Then the doorbell rang. Callista was still gone. The sound of the doorbell echoed through the house, mixing with the faint creaks of the old floors. Tavian froze, holding the papers halfway out of the envelope like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. I walked past him and opened the front door myself. Theron Liss was standing on the porch. He wore a charcoal coat, snowflakes clinging to his shoulders and melting slowly. Zinnia Vale stood a step behind him carrying a briefcase. Theron's eyes met mine, and for the first time in person I felt like I was looking at someone who had been missing from my life for far too long. He didn't smile, but he didn't have to. He stepped inside, leaving wet footprints on the hardwood floor, and said the words I had dreamed about for 730 days. "I'm here for my daughter," he said, calm and firm. "You don't have any legal claim on her anymore." Tavian opened his mouth to argue, but no sound came out. The air in the living room felt frozen. Even the grandfather clock in the hallway seemed to pause for a second. Tavian stood holding the temporary guardianship order like it was written in a language he didn't understand. He tried to speak again, but all that came out was a tiny squeaky noise, almost like a scared animal. Zinnia calmly clicked open her briefcase and laid a dark green leather folder on the coffee table. It had a gold seal stamped in the middle. She slid it across the table so every page faced Tavian. "Temporary order is effective at 9:30 this morning," she said. "Saphira is no longer your ward. Try to stop her from leaving and you'll be arrested before lunch." Tavian finally looked properly at the paper. He flipped to the last page and saw the signature. The paper slipped from his fingers like it had burned him. Theron didn't yell. He just reached into a second folder and began placing documents on the table, one by one. Each paper made a soft thud as it landed. There were papers showing $8,000 withdrawn for Kaylin private school fees, even though Kaylin had always been in public school. $12,000 sent to a car dealership for a white Tahoe registered to Victoria Liss. $43,000 spent at a resort in Los Cabos for 4 adults and 2 kids during Christmas week, while I had eaten cereal alone at home. A boat loan in Tavian's name, hockey equipment and travel team fees totaling more in one season than I had been given in 4 years. A casino cash advance slip from the Bellagio signed with the trust's debit card. $212,000 taken over 12 years. Every dollar went while I wore hand-me-down coats and asked for nothing. Callista came in quietly through the garage entrance during the presentation. She was wearing a lavender yoga outfit and holding a stainless steel water bottle. The ice inside rattled as she trembled. I never signed anything," she stammered, her voice shaking on every word. Theron looked at her steadily. "Your signature is on 14 of these withdrawals, Mrs. Liss. Page 27 if you want to refresh your memory." Her knees buckled. She grabbed the doorframe to stay standing. From the stairs I heard a soft creak as someone came down. It was me, walking carefully but determined. I looked at the papers, my father's pale face, my mother half collapsed against the wall, and the stranger who looked like an older, stronger version of myself. I opened my mouth to speak but no sound came out. I just stared at the proof. Every new video game, every ski trip, every $300 pair of sneakers I had ever wanted but never received. Zinnia snapped her briefcase shut with a sharp click. "The Spokane County Sheriff's Civil Division is on standby," she said calmly. "We prefer this to stay peaceful." Finally, Tavian found his voice. It was raw and shaking. "You can't prove any of this. I'll fight it. I'll drag this through every court. You'll lose, Theron." Theron spoke quietly but with certainty. "And when you do, the DA gets the forgery file. 18 counts minimum. We're offering you a chance to settle this peacefully. Take it." He turned to me and held out his hand. I took it. His hand was warm and strong. I grabbed the duffel bag I had hidden behind the couch the night before. Inside were 3 hoodies, 2 pairs of jeans, and my mom's lockbox wrapped in a t-shirt. I walked toward the door. Behind me, Tavian started shouting. Lawyers. Lawsuits. Ruin. His words chased us down the hallway but lost power with every step I took. Theron opened the back door of the waiting Range Rover. I climbed in. Zinnia took the front seat. The driver eased away from the curb. Snow poured from the sky, thick and relentless, covering everything in white. I watched the only home I had ever known disappear behind a curtain of snow. For the first time in 12 years I didn't feel cold. Snow fell over Spokane again that night during the Spokane First Bank Sapphira auction. The Davenport Grand Ballroom shimmered under crystal chandeliers. 300 guests dressed in fancy black tie outfits milled around silent auction tables with weekend stays at resorts and private dinners with the mayor. Every dollar was supposed to go to the children's hospital, or so the banners said. Tavian still sat at the head table in a rented tuxedo. The board hadn't moved against him yet and the lawsuit was still under review. He had no idea the lead sponsor had changed. Theron had quietly pledged $300,000 the week the invitations went out. The bank president called to thank him personally, without asking why a Seattle shipping billionaire cared about a Spokane fundraiser. I walked in on Theron's arm, wearing a long navy silk gown he had delivered the day before. Heads turned. Phones lifted. Whispers floated through the room. We stopped at table after table so Theron could greet old acquaintances. Every introduction was the same. This is my daughter, Sapphira. Some people recognized the list name and did the math. Others smiled politely. A few asked me where I went to school. I told the truth for the first time in my life. I'm finishing the semester online while I settle the guardianship transfer. The MC tapped the microphone. Dinner ended. The lights dimmed for the live auction. Theron was scheduled to give the sponsor thank you right before the big-ticket items. He squeezed my hand once then walked up the 3 steps to the stage. The room went quiet. Theron took the mic, scanned the crowd and smiled his easy smile that closed 8-figure deals. Good evening, Spokane, he said. Tonight, we've already raised an incredible amount for the Children's Hospital, and I'm proud to be part of it. But before we start the big auction, there's someone I want you to meet. He turned to me. I stood from our table near the front and walked up the steps. The spotlight shone on me. 300 faces stared. Phones lifted like a wave. Theron said, "This is my daughter, Sapphira Liss. 16 years ago I didn't know she existed. 4 months ago she found me. Tonight I get to tell all of you how proud I am to finally call her mine." A collective gasp went through the room. At the head table, Tavian jumped up so fast his chair scraped the floor. The crystal wine glass in his hand tipped over, spilling red wine onto the white tablecloth like blood. Someone in the back whispered loud enough for half the room to hear, "That's the branch president's niece, or daughter?" Theron kept talking. Sapphira spent her life being told she was a burden. She was denied basic things while money meant for her education paid for vacations and cars. But she never gave up. She fought. She found the truth. And now she's home. The whispers turned into murmurs. Phones filmed openly. Tavian's face went from red to white. He took 1 step toward the stage, then another like he might charge it. Callista grabbed his sleeve and whispered something no one could hear. Theron wrapped his arm around my shoulders. I felt safe for the first time in my life. I looked out at the crowd, hundreds of people staring at me, but I only cared about the people standing next to me. Snow continued to fall outside, soft and silent, covering Spokane in a fresh white blanket. I knew that no matter what had happened before, this was the start of a new life. A life where I was finally safe. A life where my father was here, where I could learn, grow, and be proud of who I was. I realized that all the waiting, all the quiet crying in my room, all the years of being ignored and denied had led to this one perfect moment. I had fought, I had waited, and I had won. And I smiled. So, thank you Spokane for letting me stand here with my daughter tonight. Let's make this the best auction ever. He gave me the microphone for the special paddle raise. My hand did not shake at all. I felt calm even though my heart was beating fast inside my chest. And before we even walked off the stage, the video of the moment was already going online. People all over could see it now in a way that would change everything. That night, the big news website The Spokesman Review showed one big picture. It was Tavian Liss in the middle of falling, with red wine spilling all over the white tablecloth, while Theron Liss and I stood on the bright stage. The light made it look like we were glowing. The headline said in huge letters, "Billionaire shipping boss says girl is his daughter in big surprise at Bank Safira party." The local worker was shocked. People started writing comments right away even before we reached our car. My mom used to say that people love to watch the drama before the story is even done, and she was right. The civil court trial started on a cold April morning in Spokane County Superior Court. The courthouse smelled like old wood and strong cleaner, like the kind that always smells very sharp. Courtroom 3 was quiet and cold. There were only about 20 people watching. Some reporters, a bank worker, and a few neighbors who had seen the gala video. Tavian sat at the table for the people being sued. His navy blue suit looked too big now, like he had lost weight. His shoulders seemed smaller and the sleeves hung past his wrists. Callista sat behind him holding a tissue in her hand, but she never used it to wipe tears. Kalen was not there. He had school and I did not see him in the crowd either. Zinnia, the lawyer who was helping me, came in pulling 4 very big boxes on a metal cart. She moved them like she was bringing in groceries from the store, calm and steady. The bailiff looked at her and raised an eyebrow but did not say anything. Judge Magnus came into the courtroom at exactly 9 a.m. sharp. There was no jury to decide the case. This case was only about money, how Tavian had taken money he was supposed to keep safe for me. Zinnia's opening speech was short and sharp. She said, "Your Honor, we will show that for 12 years the defendant who was supposed to take care of money for Safira Liss took $212,000 for himself. Every time he took money he broke Washington state rules for people who handle trust. We want all the money back, interest at 8% every year and payment for attorney fees." Tavian's lawyer stood up and tried to explain that some of the money was spent on family expenses, and that Tavian made reasonable choices, but the judge stopped him in less than a minute. "Save it for evidence, counselor," the judge said firmly. The courtroom was quiet again except for the sound of pens and papers. Zinnia called me first. I walked up wearing a simple gray blazer that Theron had bought me. I felt nervous, but I knew I was ready. I promised to tell the truth. The clerk gave me a microphone. Zinnia asked me to talk about my childhood. I told her about the used clothes from Plato's closet, how I didn't get a phone until I bought it myself at age 15, how I didn't get to go on school trips, and how I had no allowance. It was all true, even though it made me feel a little sad to say it out loud. While I talked, Zinnia showed papers on a huge screen. Each paper was like a big piece of the story. There was Tavian's signature on a check for a flat-screen TV. The same month he told me we couldn't afford new shoes. Then came the bank papers. 4 boxes turned into 400 pages. Each page went up on the screen one by one. There was a $5,000 payment for braces. I never had braces. A $22,000 wire for a Hawaii trip. I stayed home with a neighbor. A $38,000 check for jewelry. The diamond earrings Callista wore to the gala. Every page showed big, clear pictures of fake trustee signatures. The letters in Tavian's name were the same, but they were not really written by him as the trustee. Tavian stared straight ahead, jaw so tight that a muscle jumped every few seconds. Zinnia finished her presentation after 2 hours. The defense had no witnesses. Tavian's lawyer asked for a break, but the judge said no. It was time to decide. Closing statements were strong. Zinnia said, "The defendant stole from a child he pretended was his daughter. The evidence is clear. Give back all the money plus interest and fees." The defense only said it was normal family spending. The judge leaned forward, took off his glasses and looked at Tavian. "I've seen enough," he said. Judgment for the plaintiff. $212,000, 8% interest every year from when each amount was taken, and $48,000 in attorney fees. He said the money was due in 30 days. He hit the gavel hard. The sound was sharp and loud like a gunshot. The bank fired Tavian on Monday. The letter said he lost the trust of the public and broke the bank rules. He packed his desk before lunchtime. 3 weeks later, a foreclosure notice went on the South Hill house. The bank took the house back. Callista packed whatever she could into her SUV and moved into her mother's small trailer near Airway Heights. Kalen sent me one text from a flip phone. "Sis, I didn't know. I'm sorry." I looked at it, didn't answer and blocked him. That same week I went back to the courthouse for a simple name change hearing. It took only 10 minutes. No one argued against it. The judge signed the paper. Safira Liss was gone. My new name was Safira Liss. My guardian was Theron Liss. I walked outside into the bright spring sun. I felt lighter than I had since I was 4 years old. Another winter came to the house on Lake Kane. I stood on the wide cedar balcony wearing one of Theron's old UW hoodies, watching the lake freeze under fresh white snow. The lake looked like a huge mirror and the ice was thick and smooth. The house was 45 minutes east of Spokane, far enough that no one from my old life ever showed up without asking. Theron came out with 2 cups of hot cocoa. He gave me one without asking if I wanted it because he already knew. We drank quietly while steam rose and disappeared in the cold air. He taught me how to drive that January. Not on real roads, they were too icy. Instead, he let me practice on the frozen lake. He set orange cones in a big circle and sat beside me in his old Suburban while I drove only 15 miles an hour, laughing every time the car slid a little. "Easy on the wheel," he would say. "Trust the surface." Some nights we stayed up late in the library he made for me. There were books from floor to ceiling and a real fireplace that worked. He told me stories about meeting my mom in Seattle, how she spilled coffee on his shoes at Pike Place Market and laughed, how she loved jazz and hated cilantro, how she could beat anyone at the pool after 2 drinks. I listened carefully, trying to build a picture of the mom I barely remembered. My phone stayed silent most days. Callista tried calling twice from a number I didn't know. I didn't answer. Kalen sent one more message from a friend's phone. It was a long apology saying he would pay me back one day. I read it once and deleted it. Kids from my old school tried texting me with heart emojis, pretending they cared. I blocked them too. I didn't hate them. I just didn't owe them anything anymore. Spring came with a letter from the University of Washington. I got a full scholarship to the Foster School of Business because of my grades and the essay I wrote about money theft and second chances. Theron read the letter over my shoulder. He didn't speak for a long moment. Then he hugged me in a way that made words unnecessary. I still called him Theron, not because I was mad but because Dad felt like a big, important word I needed time to grow into. He never pushed. One time I said Dad by accident when asking about orientation day. He smiled so big his eyes watered, then acted like he didn't notice. Now I knew what home felt like. Some nights I opened the small lockbox on my desk. Inside was my mom's letter. The paper was soft from being read so many times. I traced her handwriting with my finger and understood a little more each time. Family isn't just people you share blood with. It isn't even only the people who raise you. Family is the person who stays when the truth is messy. The person who shows up every day without wanting anything back. The person who sees your worst memories and still says, "This doesn't make you worth any less." Theron chose me every day. Every cup of cocoa. Every driving lesson. Every late night story by the fire. The people who treated me like I didn't matter lost the right to my time the moment they proved money mattered more than I did. I'm 18 now. The trust money is finally mine. I'm going to Seattle in the fall to study finance because I want to understand every rule they broke, every trick they used, so no kid has to fight this hard again. And when people ask me where I'm from, I don't say South Hill anymore. I say I'm from the house on the lake, where someone finally showed me what home really means. Blood does not get to write your ending. The people who stay do.